Hello all, welcome. Thank you for joining Knox Partner Program webinar. My name is Mateusz Andrusiewicz and I'm working in R&D Poland in Knox Partner Program Europe team. Our today's speakers are John Paterson, Chief Technology Officer working in Zimperium, and Nick Dawson working in Samsung Electronics as a Global Head of B2B Solutions. They will tell us a little bit about Zimperium, which is next-gen mobile threat defense solution. Just one more thing before passing my voice to John, please write all your questions in the question tab in the GoToWebinar panel. I will address them to our speakers at the end of the webinar. Now, without further ado, let me pass my voice to John.
Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate the opportunity, everyone. Appreciate the time and opportunity to speak also with Nick. So before we kick this off, I really wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you about why Nick and I are here to talk to you today, and what is the problem that Samsung and Zimperium together are solving from an industry perspective. So let's take some numbers and make the problem real, and then as Nick and I walk through the presentation, we can talk about how we're helping solve these challenges. So in the bottom right, 1.5. So 1 in 5 enterprise mobile devices has experienced a network attack. This is data that's sourced from our solution as we monitor millions of devices around the world. As a mobile platform, the number of vulnerabilities is growing exponentially. What do I mean by vulnerabilities? Many of you that follow the news and the press know that mobile is really the modern computing platform as we move forward. And because of that, attackers are looking for new and novel ways to manipulate that platform. Over 1,000 high severity CVEs, these are high risk exposures in the platforms, were reported and patched in 2019. Now, almost 40% of those allowed what the industry calls remote code execution. Remote code execution really means that an attacker is able to take full control of that device, as we would consider if we think about how an attacker would attack a traditional, say, Windows or common platform attack. So this is a growing challenge that, as an industry, we need to target. Apps. So I think as a whole, many people are aware of malware as a general problem. However, outside of generic malware problems, we see a growing trend, certainly at Zimperium, a growing trend of apps that are developed either insecurely, that is, that the developer himself is not consciously creating a problem, but he might be using third-party libraries, or he may be collecting information from the device, storing that insecurely that may expose the user of those apps to unnecessary risks. In our analysis of apps in 2020, almost 70% of them have some level of a risk attached to those. And that's a growing problem that both as users but as enterprises we need to be very cognizant of outside of that zero-day malware threat. Industry stats. So this one came from Verizon's report, but 90% of breaches start with phishing. But statistically, 60% of emails today are being read on mobile. So how do we help solve that challenge and ensure that we're applying a protection in the right places, in the places that our users are possibly more likely to be reading or clicking on those links? At least 27% of enterprise mobile devices are exposed to device-based or device-based threats or risks. This comes from our data points. This is a growing trend that we see as we move to a more modern computing platform, and we'll talk about some of those types of attacks and risks, and more importantly, how Samsung and Zimperium together are uniquely tackling and facing those challenges head on. COVID's been obviously a real focus for the entire world, but also for the attackers. This stat actually comes from the BBC, but over 18 million links were reported, both phishing and malicious apps in 1 week. At Zimperium, we've seen a number of COVID or spoofed COVID applications and many COVID-related phishing links. So it is a new time that we are in, but the attackers are taking full advantage of these challenging times to attempt to gain control and gain access to our mobile devices. So the real key summary is, as a platform, mobile continues to have more focus applied upon it by the attackers, both from the device itself, the applications that run upon that device, the networks to which that device connects to, and then the phishing links, the communication that those devices leverage. So that being said, that baselining those key areas, how are Zimperium and Samsung tackling this problem? And we're really proud to hear an analyst's comment that Zips, which is our solution, with the specific Knox integration that Nick and I will talk about today, is providing unparalleled protection against phishing, false networks, malicious apps, and device compromise. And on top of that, providing enterprises the level of visibility and control that are required from a modern computing platform. And Nick and I will cover that as we go through. So we're very excited on the Zimperium side to have the opportunity to have worked very closely with Samsung on really bringing forward the capabilities that enterprises are requiring around securing and assuring mobile devices. So before I go into detail around how we at Zimperium are solving this problem, Nick, I think it would be great if you can baseline again for everyone the strength and the capabilities of the Knox platform.
Yeah, no, happy to do so. Thank you very much, John. And it's a pleasure to have everybody on the line today. I think as most Samsung customers know, hopefully they do, for about 7 years now, we have been integrating and embedding what we call the Knox Platform for Enterprise, KPE, into all of our mobile devices, be they smartphones, tablets, frankly, even our wearables, which is just a fancy Samsung term for watches and things like that. And KPE, the Knox Platform, was the first ever Android-based platform to address both security and management needs and requirements from our B2B or enterprise and government customers. And to be clear, it has evolved quite a lot over the years, obviously, but to be clear, it's most people can think of it now really as an extension to those security and management features that exist within core Android OS under the banner name of Android Enterprise. In fact, we contributed a great deal to what is now known as Android Enterprise. But what the Knox platform is an extension to the Android Enterprise security and management features. So they're Samsung unique, either more granular or very unique features, provide a series of overlapping defense and security mechanisms that span up right from the hardware itself. We embed the platform and anchor it right within the chipsets that go into our devices. And interestingly enough, we build all of the chips that go into our devices in our own factories. That includes Qualcomm chips. We don't build Qualcomm chips for everybody necessarily, but we build all the Qualcomm chips that go into our devices under license, for example. So we anchor and embed this security platform right into the chipset, and it spans up through the boot layer, through the operating system, up to the application layer and beyond. And it's designed, KPE, the Knox platform, it's designed to guarantee and ensure the integrity of the device itself. Right. And that's a foundation starting point for security. If the device itself can't be trusted, then any type of security overlay that you put on it should probably be treated with a degree of suspicion. So we anchor this platform to guarantee the integrity of the device itself, and thereby provide the tools and mechanisms so that applications, services, data, etc., can be thought of as secure as well. Now, the platform itself is tamper-proof because of its hardware anchors. It's approved by governments globally around the world, it, as I mentioned before, it's been growing quite a bit as well, and I think I'll touch upon that in a moment. But we put an awful lot of analytics for artificial intelligence, AI integration, which is a growing focus area for us into the platform as well. But if we move on to the next slide here, just to sort of put it in relation to everything else, KPE at the bottom, the platform is embedded in every device. And then across the top of that, we have a portfolio of solutions that leverage all of the security and management features that are within the platform in different ways. And this portfolio of Knox solutions is designed to follow the life cycle of the device throughout its enterprise journey, from very detailed and granular configuration and setup tools, obviously an enrollment tool so that this can be enrolled into your EMM or UEM infrastructure for policy for policy setting and ongoing management. We also provide an OS and security patching tool called Knox eFOTA, because all the good names were taken, I like to tell people, but no, it stands for Enterprise Firmware Over the Air, and it allows IT administrators to standardize the OS version of their device fleet, to pick the very specific version of OS they would like to be on, force updates, under what conditions, Wi-Fi, not roaming, etc., to ensure that all devices are security patched with the latest patches, etc. It's a unique solution in the market. There's nothing else out there on any other platform. And more recently, and this is where our partnership with Zimperium comes into play, we have a number of features within the platform that's embedded on the device that allow Zimperium and the Zips product specifically to provide better threat detection and remediation capabilities by leveraging, some of these features are on board, and that's where John in a moment is going to talk a little bit more about how they do that and some of these types of features that they leverage, so that together we can provide a more secure or a better on Samsung version of what we're doing in the MTD space. And mobile threat defense, as hopefully all of you know, certainly growing exponentially in popularity and need, and hopefully if you weren't already convinced of that, some of those statistics that John shared at the top of the call will urge you to action. This is an incredibly powerful tool set and capability that I think really needs to be added to every enterprise arsenal of defense out there. But if we move forward one more slide before I hand it over to John, I just want to sort of highlight just a little bit also where we're going with the Knox platform itself. This is the embedded on-device capabilities. We will always be pushing the boundaries and moving forward on the security front. Our objective is always to outpace what anybody else in the industry is doing, and to maintain our leadership position when it comes to security. And anytime we come out with new ideas and new features, there'll be management controls and capabilities for those as well. But increasingly, as we're moving to this 5G fueled world, we are seeing a massive proliferation in endpoints out there. Not just smartphones, tablets, but any type of endpoint. The world of IoT, or enterprise IoT, is finally upon us at scale and accelerating. And as one of the leading device or hardware manufacturers in the world, at Samsung, we make a lot of things. If you don't believe me, you can come see my apartment in Seoul. It's full of Samsung things. It behooves us to ensure that all of those endpoints that are network connected have the same levels of protection, that are tamper-proof, that are resistant to attack and threats, because every endpoint on a network is a backdoor to every other endpoint on the network. So where we're going as a vision with the Knox platform is to move beyond the traditional mobile computing devices, if you will, of smartphones, tablets, etc., into other and alternative endpoints that are certainly enterprise focused. And then with that, with the amount of data and the connection points out there, the AI algorithms have been improving, again, exponentially, to the point where they're moving beyond being just decision support tools to automated decision tools as well. And so we are really building out the analytics capability on device to be able to feed into the types of systems such as the Zimperium builds to provide better defense, better management, etc., etc. So that's really in a nutshell where the Knox integration point in this story comes. John, I'll pass it back over to you to expand upon that.
Outstanding. Thanks, Nick. And to Nick's point, the platform that Samsung has built is unparalleled in the industry. The level of security and capabilities from an enterprise perspective are extremely compelling, and we were very proud and pleased to get the opportunity to work closely with Nick and the engineering team on being able to really bring in unique capabilities specific for the Samsung platform within our MTD technology. But before I go into what those are, I want to level set for everybody what MTD or mobile threat defense really is and where that fits in the ecosystem. So this is the visual representation. It's actually Gartner's visual representation to show you where does MTD sit in your traditional stack if you're not familiar with it. So let's look at traditional desktops first, because that allows us to place an analogy that resonates with people. So on the traditional desktop side of the house, we've got some sort of client management tool. We've got traditional endpoint protection platforms, so next generation AV or similar, and then EDR solutions. Those are really more threat hunting, threat visibility capabilities for traditional endpoints. On the mobile side of the house, really in the past we've had UEM solutions very focused around compliance, control, and capabilities, enforcement capabilities on mobile devices, but really focused on that compliance and control aspect of mobile devices. And what the industry was really missing was the equivalency of the endpoint protection and the endpoint detection and response capabilities that we have come to expect from a modern computing platform. And that's really where mobile threat defense was born from, and it really filling that gap to provide prevention, detection, and remediation for mobile devices, and ultimately provide the enterprise a constant capability set across regular computing or traditional computing devices and modern computing platforms such as mobile. Now, that being said, what are the core capabilities that Zimperium provides on that modern computing platform? So the first area, well, let me start with our engine, because I think the engine probably will help level set for everybody. Our goal when we developed our product was really to be able to deliver as much on-device detection and remediation that was possible for a mobile device. And that was a unique challenge, because traditionally any mobile security solution was focused around taking or extracting data and leveraging in the cloud. But that poses a problem, because if one is under attack or the attacker has control of the network, that can bring forth a challenge of detection and response. So our engineers turned their skill sets in machine learning around how can we solve this problem to not only have generic detection available to us, that is zero-day capabilities, but be able to do the majority of that work on the device. And that's a technology that we call Z9. Now, Z9 exposes itself in the 4 key areas that you see here to provide detection and remediation on those devices. The first area, device attacks. We're looking for attacks, exploitation attempts from any vector that will target the operating system and the operating system platform applications themselves. And we're looking to do that in a generic fashion to give what the industry calls a zero-day detection. On the network side of the house, what we're looking for there is a broad range of Wi-Fi and network-based attacks. We are unique in our capabilities to not only provide that detection on device, but actually provide that all the way from layer 2 through to layer 7 in the networking stack. That means that, you know, if you're on a public Wi-Fi network and somebody's attempting to manipulate your traffic or decrypt your traffic, we are not only going to be able to identify that, but actually then trigger a broad range of remediations, and many of those remediations are unique to the Samsung platform. Phishing, as we mentioned, you know, I think phishing is a growing problem on mobile. Not only do we receive, or certainly I receive, many spoofed two-factor authentication messages or messages you know, from the IRS or you know, messages purporting to be from your bank. And you know, mobile is really where we're reading a lot of those messages. Now, in traditional enterprise stacks, phishing detection capabilities are normally provided by edge services. So that could be web gateways or your email gateways and email services providing phishing from links. But that really doesn't help you when you receive that link via WhatsApp, SMS, or some other medium. So we wanted to solve that particular problem for mobile, but actually provide not only known phishing site protection, but actually unknown phishing site protection as well, and be able to deliver that on device. And you know, we have some patents pending around some very unique technology in that space. And finally, apps. So when we look at apps from the industry, I think, you know, it is general knowledge that, you know, malware is an increasing problem for mobile. I have a research background, and I come from a Windows research background in my past. And what's been really interesting for me is to watch this sophistication of mobile malware really follow the same lines that we've seen on traditional desktops. What do I mean by that? I mean that today there are advanced techniques being leveraged by mobile malware. That is both obfuscation, second payloads, unique command and control capabilities being provided through systems such as Telegram, WhatsApp, Twitter, to be able to manage those malwares. So, you know, really emulating some of the advanced, say, ransomware techniques that we see on Windows malware today. So malware is obviously a growing problem, and I think that will, you know, continue to be a challenge as a platform. It is more leverage. Mobile's more leverage for business, and therefore the attackers will turn their focus to be able to see how they can leverage that platform. But we also need, as enterprise security practitioners, to be considering apps from a risk and a privacy perspective. That is, legitimate applications that have either been misdeveloped or are using third-party SDKs or something similar that is now or can pose a risk to the enterprises. You know, good examples of this, you know, as I mentioned earlier, applications that are collecting data, sensitive data for business use, but they are storing that insecurely on the file system. They are sending that to third-party sites, but not doing so securely. They are not ensuring the security correctly of that communication channel. Perhaps they dynamically download code, and that code could be manipulated. And as security professionals, we need to assess the line of business applications that we are deploying to our mobile devices and be able to define policies around what is acceptable to the business, and then have a review process and the data to really support that perspective to make sensible decisions. So those four key areas are really the goals of mobile threat defense from a Zimperium perspective. But taking that aside, I mean, if we look at the stages from a security perspective that we're trying to bring to the table and our core design constructs, risk identification, you know, for getting attacked, being able to baseline and understand the risk posture of your mobile devices is extremely important. That could be anything from patches and CVEs through to apps that are currently running on the device, through to networks that that device is connecting to. And being able to baseline and monitor that is an extremely important first step, and of course is how we would typically approach that on a desktop device. Threat detection is then the obvious next step. So after baselining, one needs to be able to proactively detect that a threat or an attack is attempting to be delivered on that device, and then subsequently being able to trigger remediation workflows around that, and the core reporting capabilities, detection capabilities that we can deliver. When we designed our solution, exclusively for enterprise use cases. So what do enterprise use cases mean to me or to our customers? The first one is scale. We have some of the world's largest governments, enterprise customers deploying millions of protecting millions of devices globally. We wanted to design a solution that would detect known and unknown threats on the device and be able to provide that zero-day assurance and detection capability in the product. We are privacy-centric. We integrate with almost any UEM, popular UEM on the marketplace today. And as enterprises would expect, we are able to define very granular group-based policies. And those group-based policies can deliver both controls, detection and control capabilities on a group basis. So example could be that your BYOD group in Europe might have a different policy than your corporate-owned tablets deployed in stores in the US, and you may have different detection and remediation needs in both of those use cases. But also privacy, and this is an important part in my journey from traditional desktops to mobile. One of the areas that was very apparent to me is the differing use case and problem that we need to solve around privacy. And this can mean everything from detection data that we collect from the device, but also how we use that information as security practitioners. And we delivered within our product the ability for the enterprise to define the privacy controls around what data is collected, how is it collected within the product, and one can do so based on groups, and that's a very, very core tenant and use case of our solution. We can integrate with multiple UEMs simultaneously. So let's think about that for a minute. We work with some of the world's largest organizations, and it's quite common for us to come across customers that are leveraging multiple UEMs. That could be for a business use case, perhaps where they've got a shop floor or a factory floor and they've deployed a particular solution there, and a different solution on the enterprise. Or they've been acquisitional, they've acquired companies and therefore have been able to absorb other UEMs that are being leveraged. So within our solution, we're actually able to integrate into those multiple UEMs simultaneously and then drive and deliver those group-based policies, controls, and core capabilities in our product as well. So with this baseline set, where we are from a Zimperium zip solution and MTD perspective, let's talk a little now around how we have extended our already extremely compelling detection and remediation capabilities when aligned and working with specific capabilities that the Samsung Knox platform provides us. In combining these two technologies with the world's strongest defense-grade platform with our detection, our remediation capabilities is an extremely compelling security offering when you are looking at your next generation modern computing platform and how you can really assess and secure that in the same way or with the same core goals as you would with your traditional computing solutions. So let me talk to you about some specific work that we've done with Samsung and how that benefits our conjoined customers when leveraged on a device with KPE enabled. The first is extending our zero-day threat detection. So we already have extremely powerful zero-day threat detection, and being able to detect an attack, even if that attack is foiled, is extremely important from a detection and response capability. Now, in working with the Knox team, we were able to work on some unique capabilities that extend our visibility and then subsequently our ability to respond and react to those threats with the KPE team. And that's really a very compelling capability for this platform. The second is a much broader range of remediation workflows that can be triggered when we see a particular threat occurring. For example, in malicious app cases, on a traditional mobile platform, the ability to forcibly remove an application, for example, is not a capability that's built into the core OS. Leveraging the Samsung Knox platform, we can, as enterprises, automate those capabilities. And I'll give you some examples of that in a moment. Being able to trigger on-device data loss prevention and threat aligned to threat detection is a very unique proposition, and we're really only getting started here with the breadth of areas that we want to deliver around this particular capability. But being able to trigger what we consider DLP related functionality on the Knox platform was a very exciting opportunity for us, but also a problem that our customers wanted to solve. And finally, and this is critically important for enterprises, is enhancing the forensic that support a detection. When as security practitioners, one of the key areas for any SOC or threat hunting and response team is the supporting forensics that go hand in hand with a particular attack and detection. Not only does it allow them to corroborate the detection, but also then be able to leverage and correlate that information for future analytics. The Knox platform gives us, and more importantly, our customers, the ability to get extremely granular forensics that are really analogous and aligned to the sorts of SOC level forensics that one would look for from a traditional endpoint solution. I'm sorry, as a traditional endpoint operating system. So let's dig into each one of these. Actions is one area. So, I talked a little bit before around different remediation workflows. The screen that you see here is some policy-related controls that we can define on a granular basis for our customers. So, for example, unique capabilities to the Knox platform here is for us to say isolate an application from the network. So if we detect that it's a malware that's has command and control capabilities, we can actually forcibly isolate only that app from being able to communicate back from that device out onto the network, receive its command and control or similar capabilities. We can disable apps on the device. We can forcibly uninstall apps. We can block the app from being able to run directly. We can also trigger data loss prevention workflows. So being able to trigger the capabilities around under a particular scenario or threat detection, being able to restrict different elements on the device at that moment in time. So let's say I installed a malicious app, or I felt that the device was compromised in a certain way, or there was a certain attack occurring. I could then define a policy around what was acceptable to occur. So let's take the malicious app example. I don't want it to be able to communicate off the device or leverage Bluetooth. I don't wish to allow it to gain access to the clipboard or be able to copy or access data or even access data on the SD card or capture information from the screen. And the KPE platform allows us to define that level of granularity Again, very analogous to some of those controls that you would look for from a traditional endpoint solution, being able now to apply those in an enterprise class fashion on a mobile platform. Forensics, I mentioned forensics, and being a security guy myself, forensics are always something that are really, really critical to our customer base, but also to really help us when we're doing threat hunting. Here's an example. This screen you're seeing here is what we call our threat log, but just really think of these as threat events that have occurred, both high, medium, low severity types of events here. But here's an example here of when an application is spawning another process or capability and being able to respond to those threats. So not only are we detecting a broad number of forensic elements around that device, so that the network it's connected to, the location, even the network encryption that's being used, but actually also being able to show the threat chain as that's occurring as well. So this could be the processes. As you can see, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different unique processes that have spawned different processes or threads as they're running, and that's very analogous to those core capabilities that our customers enjoy on traditional computing devices from an EDR perspective. So bringing that forward now to be able to deliver those capabilities on a modern computing device at an enterprise level of granularity is unparalleled in the industry. And I think it's a very, very compelling capability that we've been able to work on with Samsung to bring that level of visibility to our customer base. So let's summarize what we've covered. So hopefully you're all familiar now with the concept of mobile threat defense, really delivering capabilities around the 4 key areas: the device, the network, phishing-based capabilities, and then apps from a malware, apps from a risk and a privacy perspective. And I strongly believe that we have the best solution in the industry focused on enterprise grade capabilities. But the extension of what is already an extremely compelling functional set in our solution with the unique Zimperium specific capabilities on the Knox platform brings a whole new breadth of capability and action to a combined solution set, not only from the detection capability, but also the remediation, the data loss prevention, and the context-based forensics that customers are looking for to gain those controls, visibility, compliance capabilities that they would expect from a traditional endpoint solution, now available to them on a modern computing platform. And this is only the start of some of these capabilities. We have a significant number of enhancements that we plan to make unique to the Samsung platform to further extend what is already a very compelling feature set from a capabilities perspective on this platform. So when you're looking at how you can bring synergy from what you're doing on your traditional desktop devices, having the same goal on your mobile and modern computing platform, and on your Knox capabilities, this combined solution is really going to help you meet that need and differentiate, bring you that assurance that your security, risk, and compliance teams are expecting from the platform.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for hosting, Matthias. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Yet another webinar in the time of COVID. And John, it was great catching up with you again. I look forward to hopefully being able to do it in person one of these days. It's been a while. Hope you're well, and thanks for a great presentation for all of our mutual guests here today. We'll catch up with everybody sometime soon, hopefully.
Great. Thanks again for the opportunity and all the support, Nick and the Samsung team on bringing something differentiated to the industry. And we look forward to working with your customers and your partners on taking this technology forward.
Excellent. Good stuff. All right. Well, we'll let everybody go for the get on with their days or evenings, depending on where they are. All right. Cheers, everyone. Bye now.